Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Recessional of the Red Dragons. Last time, I just did the first two chapters. In the prologue, Trudy has witnessed Spike's so-called death, which he was soon resurrected by the Red Dragon's surviving members, as well as their new master. And in chapter 1, Trudy was on her way to planet Earth, but she is actually going to alert Trudy. Trudy is going to alert Jet and Faye of her findings from her vision. She actually called her best friend Mary, who also lives on Earth, and who happens to be a Pokemon trainer, encouraging her to do so. So, without further delay, let's get on with the show, shall we? Okay, Chapter 2, Return to Tharsis. Trudy went to the cluttered dining area. Faye and Jet were just starting their breakfast, though she was a bit hesitant telling them her input. What if they don't believe me? Who can I trust to take me to Tharsis? No, to Mars. If I have to go on my own, would my other friends do this? To her, Jet Black was a sort of father figure, giving her guidance and security despite the starship's dysfunctional atmosphere, as well as advice in defending herself and listening to each other's hardships. When she first met him and Spike as she witnessed the Bebop crash land on Earth, she was both curious and concerned about his amputated arm. They had grown to like one another rather quickly since then. She also considered Faye to be like a loner, but an older sister nonetheless. She wasn't into gambling nor sex appeal, and she wasn't really fond of her like she was with the others, but over time she was a positive example in showing what a woman is made of, rather than be just a damsel in distress aside from being capture-prone or a mere sex symbol like she thought. Trudy regarded the Bebop crew as her own surrogate family, far better than her own back on Earth. She too wishes to see Edward and Ein again someday. Just then she heard Jet call for her. "Trudy!" Said it was time for breakfast. She could actually smell the fried eggs, which turned out to be fresh omelets complete with cheese, peppers, and onions. Her stomach rumbled. Her mind raced as to how and when she should tell the remaining bounty hunters, Jet and Faye, of the theory she got on Spike's fate. She wandered in slowly and then ate her omelet, knowing this may be her last meal within the Bebop ship. By the time they were done, Jet gave each of them the lowdown on where Faye and Trudy would be dropped off on Earth. Trudy never had a place to call home since she got estranged from her family. She instead wanted to go to where her friend Mary was, but Kanto was so distant she didn't know how to get there nor where it was. But Trudy couldn't resist any longer, and she blurted out the dream she had. Although Faye was returning to the city that was demolished by the meteors and ongoing debris, Trudy would be left off to her friend's location in Kanto, which was a slight relief since it beat being back in the slums. "Jet, Faye, I need to tell you something." He looked at her in an attentive manner. "I appreciate you dropping me off in Kanto, Jet, but I found out something last night. It's about Spike. I know where he is." They had mixed expressions. "We all know where he is, Trudy. He died at the Red Dragon's headquarters." Faye saddened at the thought. She couldn't forget how upset she felt while absently shooting the roof in the hallway as she saw him walk away, never to return. "No, he was taken away to another place. I saw him get resurrected in some dark chamber. The Red Dragons were there, and they inserted Vicious's blood in him. He's alive, but he may not be himself. Mary said we should go to Tharsis to find some clues. What do you say?" Her eyes widened, while Jet paused as he tried to process the information. "Well, that's ridiculous! This was all from a nightmare you had. You expect me to believe that Spike is miraculously alive in some desolate place? I can't believe Mary told you into this." As the Papa Wolf, Jet didn't believe the young cadet. It seemed that her and the trainer's predictions were true. "I do," Oddly enough, the unlucky gambler was actually convinced. But for crying out loud, Faye, it was only some random nightmare. Dreams are nothing but only random fragments of the mind. I, for once, actually believe in her. If we could just find some traces of Spike, then he is alive somewhere. If he is truly alive and well, Jet, we'll find him. And if not, then I guess we'd be wasting our time. But we won't know until we even try. He hesitated. Trudy thanked her. He took a deep sigh. All right. But return home when you guys are done. I want to see Spike for myself if he is ever around. He deserves an ass-whooping for upsetting us. Trudy couldn't be more ecstatic. She and Faye headed out to the Bebop's loading dock. It was very close on its approach to Earth's hyperspace gate, so they needed to turn back to Mars once more. If Spike wouldn't be found, Jet was planning to scrap the wrecked ship away and may retire on his home planet, the seventh largest moon of Jupiter, Ganymede. Faye has volunteered to go with her to Tharsis, the major city of Mars. Ever since life was sustained within the Red Planet during the breakthroughs of the late 21st century, the distant plateaus developed into a metropolis. It was also home to Martians Spike and Julia, while also housing a stronghold, a skyscraper that housed the lethal Red Dragon Syndicate. As Faye and Trudy looked down, they saw it for themselves, poking through the rising mist like a sharp needle. That sinister 30-story watchtower was the same location where Spike assassinated Vicious. On the Red Tail, they departed. Jet said he'll meet up with them if anything should go awry, even though he was still skeptical on whether or not Trudy was only leading them on a wild goose chase. They showed up and the hideout was demolished and abandoned from the onslaught not long ago. The roofs collapsed in one side while a huge chunk of walls were missing by an explosion. Bloodstains were everywhere, but there were no corpses. Furniture were tossed asunder and broken. So were the glass panels in the roof of the topmost floor. At least the elevator was still operational. Faye led Trudy upwards, and there was no sign of Spike, though the room itself was hard for them to see through the darkness. They finally noticed him scuffing his feet from behind a wall. He was completely free from injury. Then he smiled wryly at them as he pointed his fingers out like a gun. Bang! Spike? Faye couldn't believe he was there. She thought he could be like a Draugr of sorts. Then strutted up to them, with his body as straight as a pencil. It's been a while, Faye and Trudy. Spike! You're alive! I am. Trudy could hardly stop her heart and mind from racing. Spike! It's so good to see you! I guess my dream was true after all. Wait till Jet hears about this. Come on! He's in the Bebop waiting for us. Should be here any second. She was quite relieved since she would be able to prove the black dog wrong for once. Spike had a surprised expression as Trudy demanded, but his face shortly became stoic again. Certainly. I'd be glad to board it again and meet the old bag. But what is it, Spike? You'll still be with us, right? Absolutely. That's why I'm here. To meet your acquaintance first. Dug into his overcoat, but the main reason why I came here. He drew out his signature golden pistol, the Jericho 941, is to exterminate you. That put Faye and Trudy on edge. Spike? What are you doing? A duel, Faye. You can't be serious. He never backed down. Draw out your weapon. Both of them were too stunned like deer in headlights. Just then Spike clicked the back of his Glock, aimed and fired in between their foreheads. The shot caused the two women to scatter. Trudy divided to the right while Faye fell to the left, covering herself beside some boxes. He shot wildly, letting out a few stray bullets with that one deadly objective in mind. Cannot hide forever! Spike's eyes on his prey. He first spotted Faye, who was about to make her move on him. Dove in and tackled her down. She struggled to get her off, but his body was too heavy. She wanted to kick his crotch while he was beginning to crush her airwaves and gaze wildly into her dwindling eyes. Trudy ambushed from behind, putting Spike in a stranglehold. When he noticed her, he stopped suffocating Faye and smacked Trudy off with a strong backhand. Her face began to swell as she fell, but she never gave up. She retaliated when he threw her backward as he was lunging toward her. They both stood up and he aimed for Trudy's stomach with a kick, but she managed to hold his leg, twist it, and tossed it in his body. Spike wound up on his side. Trudy actually used this move before with several thugs. Spike was impressed as he remembered that stunt. Not bad, Space Cadet. This was a nickname he gave her days before since she was known to zone out a lot, while also referring to the fact she was only a low-class bounty hunter. Then gave her a very strong punch to her right cheek soon after the compliment. Her vision was very faint upon impact. She felt her body shutting down. She sunk onto her knees and later collapsed to the cold floor. Faye was startled by the sight of her fallen comrade. Spike just stood and admired the damage. He clearly had an appetite for killing and destruction, but he never made a move on the hapless diva. I am sparing your life for the moment, Faye. You'd better not notify Jet of my whereabouts. It's best you keep your slutty mouth shut. She was terrified. The Red Dragons will soon rule the world over. There would be a war to determine our fate. It is something that Vicious wished he had done, and I am fulfilling his promise. We too have the same blood. We will reign supreme and triumph over the ISSP first. So if I were you, I'd run. If you dare tell Jet any of this, I will kill you personally. You have been warned. He withdrew his weapon into his right pocket and walked off, leaving both a stupefied Jet and an unconscious Trudy behind. Moments later, his swordfish landed near the summit of a very tall, steep mountain at a great distance. He returned to the same location where he was awakened and bowed to the mysterious leader. Master, I have completed the mission. I have spread the word to my enemies of the oncoming war. Is it time? Yes. We let these puny citizens wait enough. Within 72 hours we shall strike. Prepare for the battle of the new century. Yes, sir. Spike let out a huge grin. At last! Finally, after several months of planning, I finally brought the second chapter into fruition. I actually wrote this out in an old notebook over 5 years ago. But unfortunately, I lost all work shortly after. Hopefully I'd make up for lost time. So Spike has officially been brainwashed by the Red Dragons. It almost made sense since Vicious said that he and Spike have the same blood. They too were the most volatile men in the highest ranks within the Syndicate, so it's no doubt he'd have a killing machine, much like his former enemy. So the galaxy's fate hangs in the balance of the impending war. Let's hope the surviving Bebop crew would do something about this. Hope OBS got all this. So until then, this is Econ Rider signing out. Ciao, everyone. See you again, space cowboys and cowgirls.